Hello guys, welcome back to another fresh video. This is Amit here, and today I'll be showing you all interesting puzzle which can be solved using 4 rooks. Actually, usually puzzles will be like giving you a position and solving it out using tactics or something, but now I'm showing you all a puzzle where it involves no tactics. Actually, it involves your skill of how you are actually placing the pieces, how pieces are covering the squares, and like that I'll be showing you all the puzzle. So in this puzzle it involves 4 rooks. Actually 4 rooks are used, and if you are using black rooks, then the position will be like you have to place all the 4 rooks on the board such a way that it attacks all the light squares, so it will be like that, and it has to cover all light squares. But here if it is white rooks, then it has to attack all the dark squares. You have to place the rooks on the board such a way that it attacks all the squares, so all the light squares. If it is black rook, then it has to cover all the light squares. There are actually 4 different ways in which you can place the rooks. So before seeing the solution, you can pause the video and try to find out all the 4 positions. 2 of the positions are slightly easy, but the rest of the positions are quite bit trickier, I would say. So in this position you can place the rooks anywhere, but only 4 rooks you can use. So I'm using black rook, so it has to attack all the light squares. Now if you consider, you can pause the video now. If you want to see the solution, then you can proceed further. So usually in this position black rooks can be placed here like this. So there are different ways of placing the black rook. So here, if black rooks are adjacent, like 4 rooks are adjacent to each other, then these rooks cover, this rook covers this rook covers this rook covers this d1 rook covers the d8, and all the rooks cover up to h1 square. But the number of squares which are left out to be covered are e8, f7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 12 and 14. 14 squares are yet to be covered. So placing the rooks adjacent to each other will not work out, because now they cover the repeated number of squares. This rook covers the same, and this rook also covers the same, so it won't cover the lot of squares. So there is another method where you can try to place the rooks, which is by placing it on the diagonal. Once they are placed on the diagonal, all the rooks do not attack any other rook. They instead cover the squares. Now if rooks are placed here, so in this position actually the rooks are covering this square, and this rook in this diagonal, this is covered by this rook, and this rook covers here, and this rook covers here and here and here and here. This rook covers this file and this rank. So but now you can see that this rook covers here, here and here. Okay, so the only squares that are left out is all these squares, this whole last corner square. So how you can place the rook? In order to cover all these squares, you can place the rook in such a way that they cover all the squares. So you have to remove this rook, and place the rook here. Now since these are placed along this diagonal, now you can see that even a8 is covered, a6 is covered, a4 is covered, a2 is covered, b1 is covered, d1 is covered, f1 is covered, and h1 is covered by the a rook. And the light squares, now they are not, if you observe properly, the rooks are present alternate, leaving one square in between the diagonal, so they do not repeatedly cover each other. So this square is also covered by this rook, and here. So the only squares left out are this, which are covered by this rook on the g7. So this square is covered, and the rest of the squares, this and this are covered by this rook. So almost all the squares are covered. So, and this square is also covered by this rook, and this square is covered by the g7 rook. So all the squares are covered here. So the only squares which this won't repeatedly cover is by placing it on the diagonal. And interesting position, this is the first position where this rook can cover. Alternatively, you can instead of placing the rook on the a1, you can place it on a2, a5, d4 and f6 and h8. Now you can remove the rooks in the middle. So once there is, similarly all these squares are covered. So this square and this square, all the squares are covered. Now I'll show you. Now a8 is covered, c8 is covered by the h8 rook. Now whatever I am showing you is covered by the h8 rook. Now whatever I'll show is covered by the f6 rook. This. So each rook has to cover 8 squares. So in order to cover 32 squares, all the rooks should cover 8 squares each. So now the d4 rook covers the d7 and the d5 square, and c4 square, and a4 square, and this. So now only 8 more squares are left, and these squares will be covered by the b2 rook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. So alternatively you need to place the rook so that they cover the maximum number of squares. So there are another trickier ways of solving this puzzle. Actually you need 4 rooks for that as well, but it's quite a bit difficult. You can pause the video in order to find out. The only square where the rooks can be kept on the black squares in order to cover the light squares. So in this position, actually h8, I showed you h8 and a8. So you have to apply logic and find out that once another square which is adjacent to a8 square are b8. So b8, once the rook is placed on the b8, now it covers the a1, a8, c8, e8, g8 and b7, b5 and b3 and b1. So 8 squares it is covering. So once the rook is placed on the a8, the other move which needs to be played is with the rook. So if you randomly you can place it, but if you place the rook on the g3 square, then actually you can place it, but you won't be able to cover this d2 square, because you need another rook, and if you place that rook here, then d2 square will be covered. but now the problem is you have to cover the e7 as well as the e7 as well as the d4 square, sorry, d7 as well as the c4 square. So there is no other rook which can cover the d7 as well as the c4 square, because the rook you can place it here actually, but in the center now there are squares which has to be covered. Now d5 has to be covered, and e4 has to be covered, and e6 has to be covered. So all these are left out. So once and the solution is like the rook on the b8 covers up to b1. Now repeated number of squares should not be covered, so rook has to be placed on the h2 square, and then it covers h8, and then another rook should be placed on the d4 square and it covers this file, and you can see that this rook covers this and this. Now 4 squares are covered, 4 and 8, totally 8. So here also 4 and 4, 8, and here also 4 and 3 here and 1 here. So 8 squares are covered. Only squares left out is f1 and f3 and f5 and f7 and g6. The only square where if it is placed the rook will cover all these empty squares are on the f6. So on the f6 square. So here as I showed you earlier, all the squares are covered now, because now whatever a8 square is covered by the b8 rook, now I'll be showing you all which square is covered by the b8 rook. e8, g8, b7, b5, b3 and b1. Now the rook on the f6 is covering all these squares, a6, c6, e6, f6, g6, here, here and here. So, and now I will be showing you where the d4 rook is covering, here, 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 a4, c4, e4, g4, d3 and d1. Now the h2 rook covers the rest of the squares. So all the this and this. So all the squares are covered now. So this is the third solution for this puzzle, and the next solution for this puzzle is also similar, but actually you need to place the rook in this position. Actually here you can place the rook. If you place the rook here, you need to analyze all the positions. So in this position there is no repeated number of moves. So this is covering 4 squares. Let me mark it. This square is covered, this is covered, and this is covered. This covers this, this and this. So totally 8 are covered. So 8 of the light squares. Now the only squares left out is g8, and you can place it, I think you can place it here, I think, yeah. If the rook is placed on the g7, then it won't be covering the repeated number of squares, yeah, because here the rook is covering this, this and this. So the only squares left out is now h5, h5, h5 to here and here to here and here to here. So the only square where it can be kept, I think, is actually here, because it can be placed here. So if it is placed here, I think it covers all the squares. Now let us see. A8 is covered by the a3 rook, and let me show you what all a3 rook covers. a6, a4, a2 and here, here, here and here. Now this rook, c1 rook, is covering this, 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 this and this. Now the e5 rook is covering this, 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 this this, and this. Now the G7 rook is covering this. So yeah, all the squares are covered. So symmetrically you can place the white rooks as well. If you want to place the white rooks to cover the dark squares, then you have to place it on the light squares. Let me show you. Okay, so if the rook is placed on here, it covers all the squares. Then if the rooks are placed on this diagonal, then it covers all the squares symmetrically, just like how we did for black rook. Similarly you can do for white rooks as well. And the only square which is left out is G8 square. So if the G8 square is placed with the white rook, here one white rook has to be placed, and here, and it covers all the squares. And here, this is the position for placing the white rooks. And similar way you have to do for the other position as well. Other position was quite intense. Now it has to be placed here. So if the white rook is placed here, another white rook has to be placed here. Yeah, here. So and the next one is it should not cover same squares. So here, I think so it is proper. No, this rook covers extra squares, so it is not there. So somewhere 3, 4, yeah, here. I think it is here, but it is covering. I think this is not the position. Here. Now I think you may get the solution. Now here, if I place it here, and I think so this one is, yeah, like this. If you place it now, then let me confirm now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and now 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and here. Yeah, all the light squares are covered now. Light squares. Yeah. So this is how you can place the white rooks on the board, covering all the light squares. Now I have kept the position to cover all the light squares. So you can do that. And yeah, that's it for today. Hope you like this video, and I'll be uploading many such puzzles which will not involve any tactics, but your understanding of the position. So hope you like this video. If you like this video and are new to my channel, please subscribe to my channel. Yeah, thank you.